Welcome back. We're going to do an episode that I've been hesitating to do for quite some time. And I know I've touched upon it in different episodes that I've done, but I want to talk about my spiritual awakenings, plural. And I haven't known how to do that directly to you. So once again, we're back in the studio and I have put this very, very difficult topic I've delegated it into the hands again of my dear friend Jaime, who I don't know what's about to happen, but better she than I to shepherd in this discussion. So with that, welcome back, Jaime.
Hi guys. Thanks for having me back, Padmini. All right, so let's get started. My first question is, we're gonna just start off chill. So what does spirituality mean to you, and how do you practice that in your day-to-day life? Like, what does that look like? Things you do and don't do.
So spirituality, I think, it's a universal term, but it is also a very Western term, because I think the division between religion and being in touch with source or God or the universe or whatever that means has become complicated because of politics. But I don't think that they are I don't think that they are at odds with each other by any means. I think they are perhaps not entirely synonymous, but they are absolutely related and correlated. So spirituality. I was born Hindu. I come from a Brahmin family, and that was pretty ingrained in us early on. That was just the family. But I think, even in terms of religion, I think people think that if you have deep belief, if you have deep faith, that means you are conservative, which is not remotely the case.
That's typical if you're like a Catholic or Christian.
Right, or even perhaps among, actually in any religion, there are always going to be factions. I mean, there are over 8 billion people on Earth. There are a number of religions being practiced. Yes,
and a number of things that play into if someone's going to, be extremely conservative or on a different side of
it. But, the conservatism has a lot to do with the family dynamics. It has a lot to do with patriarchy. It has a lot to do with socioeconomics. It has a lot to do with the region and the country. And so you can't just you can't just consider those things are so almost infected that you could have, even just in Hinduism, right? You could randomly select 10, 20, 100 different families and they would all practice it differently. And that comes down to, I'm part of a very, very particular diaspora.
That you've expressed to me is a little different than the typical day-to-day
right
Hinduism.
And yeah, but not exactly even Hinduism, but then you have to look at the ethnicities. In Hinduism, unfortunately, you have the caste system. There are all different elements, and where did they grow up, and the socioeconomics and the family dynamics. And so I don't really like to. I think religion has been so misunderstood, because I think all the religions are way more interconnected and way more related than anyone wants to admit. And I think almost heartbreakingly, they are not in their essence respected for their beauty, in their philosophy and in their dynamics, and in what they actually, how they want people to live. And I think that has been really, really misunderstood. And then of course you have to, there are cultures, there's so many elements, there's so many variables.
Exactly. So it's kind of hard to just put a cap on what does it mean and how do you practice that, because okay, I understand. So, like you said, you have had plenty spiritual awakenings, which means you've been through some spiritual warfare. And how do you navigate these challenges from your perspective? How have you? Because, there's no, well, you're not going to do anything the same way every time. So just what are some ways you've gotten?
I mean, I think it's so much deeper than that. I think I have known since I was a child, probably since I was an infant, of what was going on behind the scenes. And I think part of me at a very, very deep level, and I think I have always to a certain extent been connected, has known. And so I think, that's what perhaps in Western society we call intuition. Whatever it is, they all, yeah, exactly. A lot of these are synonymous. People just don't realize, like, I think to a certain extent I've always known I was different, for better or for worse. I think I have, particularly given what I have seen around me and how other people's lives have gone, and even those in my family, and how much easier it has been for some of them. I have realized that, like, my path has not been
the same,
accidental. I have realized that I think what has broken my heart probably the most about humanity is that there is a lot of evil in this world.
Evil is a part of human nature as well. It's, people think that, like, it is another part of nature.
But if, like,
in my opinion.
So there's, like, a part, but a part could be a minority. But I think a part for some people is a majority. And that's what breaks my heart, is that, like, what is the point of it? Like, what?
Not something I can understand.
There are times where I look at the news and I'm just like, I don't want to be here. Not that, like, I'm not, I very much love my life that I'm living, but I am like.
But the pressure it puts on you, like, from a spiritual perspective, like, it's kind of something you can't put a word on, but I know what you mean. You just feel panicked.
Because it's like, the thing is, the things that are going on in the world, just take, like, your top 4 or 5 genocides, right? How many people are involved in actually committing them? The weapons, the defense contractors, the logistics, the shipping, the militaries, the coordination, the orders.
Who do they take from to make?
There are to kill millions of people, it takes millions of people.
Yeah. And that's scary, because simply by paying taxes, we could be a part of that cycle.
I mean, that is just like that. At that point, that's just bread and circus. That is just economic extraction. That is just a game.
Right.
That's like the last.
The last line.
The last. Like, you don't even need to worry. Like, that is just.
But.
You think about, and there are some people who are just so incredibly kind and incredibly generous and thoughtful. And it's like, how are all of us even related? How are we actually qualified as the same species? Like, what? What are we all doing on the same planet? Because I feel like half of us would like to leave. Like, to anywhere.
No,
I don't care. I don't care.
Literally to anywhere.
Anywhere.
Because this is not, I 100% agree. And I think it's really getting to a point, like, you can feel that from other people, just the not being content.
I think half the world's heart is broken and half the world is having a good time. And I think that is what is absolutely the most disgusting and horrifying.
And a lot of people don't know what to do. And, if you were really, when you pay attention, like, how would you know what to do? Like,
you do it at a micro level where you can. You find the opportunities and, the charitable, whether it's local or whether it's international, like, you find but, I think perhaps that's one of the reasons I'm infatuated with history at a macro level, at civilizations, but I am fascinated with history at the people who change it. Because it's like I remember one time it was actually while I was in art school, And we were talking about something. Yeah, I was talking to a somewhat older friend of mine, and she and I were in a lot of classes together. And I remember telling her, as and this was like 20 years ago, as my heart was breaking over whatever was happening at that point in time. And I remember saying, but I'm only one person. And then she looked at me and she was like, it always came down to one person. She was like, history has always been changed by one person. And I remember like,
that is facts. That like you felt a release.
And I didn't even have the words. And I think that's why like history, yes, at a macro level has fascinated me, but history, and it's not always that like the right person affects history. Like there are plenty of circumstances and documented events where like the wrong person has changed history, in the past and in the present.
But another person had to come along to start undoing those things.
Yeah, but how many people do we actually, who did make waves? Whether it's even in recent history, even if you're talking about Nelson Mandela, or you're talking about Gandhi, or you're talking about Malcolm X, or human rights advocates now, it's like, yes, there's at a macro level, but there's also like those waves that individuals can make. I think that is, it's like I can feel those waves,
especially when individuals come together on an idea or a movement. You really feel it.
Yeah, and they don't even have to be human, or like Bob Marley, Tupac. Like, think about their words, and these are just the most popular
examples,
pop culture examples that people will recognize.
Exactly.
But it's like, I don't think people underestimate how powerful art is, how powerful speech is, how powerful words are. Words are spells. Words can change. Words can cast spells. They can draw karma. And they can also enlighten, and they can awaken, and they can move populations and civilizations.
And it's most true today. Like, there's no denying that. So that's like right on the... So we're going to move on to our next question. How important is your spirituality to your life now? Meaning, like, you said it's changed. You were at a different point when you were 22 versus now. So how important has it become to you?
Way more important. Way. And it wasn't like I think in hindsight, I was always connected. I never had a problem with God. We were never at odds. Like, I was always cool with God, and I think God was always cool with me.
But there's levels.
Yeah, there are levels. And that is at like the most macro, getting to, I grew up in a, in a Hindu family, and, and in London there is a very, very famous temple. It's outside of London, in the north of London, run by the Hare Krishna, and George Harrison had actually donated it to the Hare Krishna before he died.
Wow.
And that was basically our home temple. And it's a stunning manor. And back in the day, this is like in the 80s, there were like peacocks roaming, and there were cows, and there was a lake, and it is just like, I like that place
feeling.
And I would go there with my grandmother, and and it was just like, it was integrated very early on.
Okay.
And I think like my grandmother had such a big part of raising me and us, and I just think her faith was so deep.
She was at that macro level.
She was at a whole different, like, my grandmother was at a whole different level. But I think like now looking back on that, like I like, who would I be without her, and without that kind of like culture and heritage, and like training early on, and just like understanding and belief. So I think that has always been integrated with me. I think to a certain extent, perhaps, particularly through my 20s and 30s, even perhaps my teens, I think there was like not a lot of growth. There were points of great faith, like when I left my marriage and there was no safety net under me, and I moved to Asia by myself and had to restart a career. I only had God at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, like it was just me and God, and it worked out. And
That's
when I
amazing.
really like commanded the universe, when I was living in Bangkok and I wanted to move to Singapore, and I remember, and I was like, I looked at the sky and I pointed my finger, and I was like, you will make this work. I was like, you will sort this out.
Sort this out is like so serious.
I was like, I am not fucking around.
Nope, like get it
And
done.
I was like, you will make this happen. And it did. And it did happen. And I landed on my feet with a great job, with a good company, and it worked. And there have been times even when like statistically I have beaten the odds too many times. People don't understand because they don't understand the intricacies, but like I have beaten the odds too many times.
And that's from you, like you said, like when from an infant you've been connected. That's kind of like how that goes. Like,
yeah,
you can't explain it sometimes, but you're like, dang,
yeah,
it has worked itself out again.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't like, as much as I'd like to like take credit.
Like, you know that
I can't. Like, it's not
certain
me.
things, obviously.
Like, I would love to, but like, it's not me. And so I think that, and seeing like how, so there's a second part to this I need to answer, but like I will wrap this first part up. Seeing how even the hardest times have ended up being blessings in disguise, and you just have to have faith. Like, you have to trust the plan. You have to trust the process. And that sometimes can take months. Sometimes that can take a couple of years, but like I have seen too many things.
And it's one thing to
roll themselves out, and like karma's a bitch. And justice and safety is also real, and I think that has really that has given me faith. Like, I am 45. I've seen more than you have. But so the second half of your question, which I haven't answered, which is more about like the spiritual warfare aspect of it.
Just because, like you said, going through these changes, clearly it did have to become more important. Like, you had to get even more connected and shed more skins. Like,
yeah,
again.
No, I did, because I think I know certain people who have waged war on me and conducted black magic. I have known who they are, and I think at this point they should know that I know who they are. I think I have really struggled, even just like, why me? Because I think like I have been so careful about my behavior, because I have always believed in karma, and because I have always tried to see the truth and the honesty and the light and the potential in people, that I have really struggled until recently. And that has really been a heartbreaking conclusion, that I just think like half of humanity sucks.
Having to
that is just where we're at. Like, there's I've been looking for a unicorn. But actually the truth is, like, I think 50% of this world is light and 50% of this world is dark, and that has just been something I have had to swallow, that I wanted it any other way.
It's like, how can I know? How can I mix? But after a while,
and then I have just like, once you actually come to the conclusion and you realize, like, some people, like, how did this world end up the way it is if so many people are not just money hungry, power hungry, like hedonists? If they are just they run such a zero-sum game that like they have to have more than other people, and they take pleasure in people having less. They take pleasure in people being hurt. They take pleasure in subjugating and humiliating,
withholding, controlling,
depriving, enslaving.
I don't get that.
Like, how I step on someone's foot and I'm apologizing for the next 60 seconds.
And I wrote about it. It's like, yeah.
And then there are people literally just hoarding obscene sums of wealth that they will never spend in this lifetime or any other.
Nor will their family.
Profiting off the death, the enslavement, the subjugation, the humiliation, the exploitation millions, billions of innocent people around the world. Like, how many homes do you need? Like, how many like private planes? How many yachts? Like, it's not like I've seen all sides of this. It's not that interesting.
And at the end of the day, when you're standing in front of someone, they are who they are, a human being, a person. So it comes down to a little more than the things you've obtained.
And it's like, what?
And how you obtained them matters more.
And what's actually even more, I think to me, is even more baffling is I'm just like, how are you even interested in these things? Like, it's actually so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing that it's like,
you don't even know who you are.
Like, you literally just have to, like, your credit card is your personality. Like,
get that on a shirt. Like, wait, that was...
Like, you can spend 30, 3 decades, 5 decades, 8 decades on this earth, and that's, like, literally, like, the height of your evolution. Like, you should have quit in elementary school. Like, you don't have anything. Like,
you're not changing the world. Which is...
But it's, like, embarrassing. I'm just, like, like, there are cats that are more evolved. Well, obviously there are cats that are more evolved, but, like, there are ducks that are more evolved. There are platypuses more evolved.
Literally a seal, maybe. Like,
I find you like an average pigeon that is more evolved. It's like no other species behaves this way. That's also what really baffles me. No other species, particularly when you look at like, so there are a couple ways to look at it. Obviously, we've got religion, we've got race, we've got all these things that are like invented to us that like maybe don't exist in other species, but like. And then gender as well. Like, even if you take it at a gender lens, like, there is no other species where the male species hates the female species and expects to survive and live. Like, I almost think humanity is trying to end itself. Like, I almost think that this is...
our natural selection.
Yeah, this is our natural selection. That, like, this is the mutation. This very, very violent, hateful patriarchy of like men turning on women when women are really like the source of like any future generation. It's like literally then women are like, all right, you hate us so much, like don't worry about it, like leave us alone. But the men are completely useless by themselves, so like they need us but they hate us. It's like this is a species not trying to survive. Like, this
suck. Oh my
gosh. This is a species. And you know what? We probably deserve it. Because look what we've done to every other species on this planet. Look what we've done to every environment, every ecosystem. I think we are under selection right now. I think this patriarchal, like, hatefulness of women is what wraps up humanity. If not, like, World War III, which is already, like, kicked off.
But all these things are going to go hand in hand. Like, that's one I didn't even really think of.
Like, look at how interwoven into the politics, into the, like, the nationalism and, the warmongering and the hatefulness and the them and us and what, like, it's all infected. It's all infected.
Yeah. I agree. We could literally talk about that for the whole rest of the thing, but
that's a whole other episode.
Okay. Another question I have for you is, so what in your life right now, aside from your cats, is most encouraging to your faith?
I mean, obviously cats. Like, above all else. Like,
we're going to check that box off,
They are the most perfect species on the planet. Like, the people I have been meeting in the past, particularly since the summer kicked off, but like a little bit before, so perhaps like slowly over the past 6 months, but certainly the past like 3 to 4, the people I am meeting, particularly the women, and I'm meeting a lot of men and women right now, but like the people I'm meeting are all at this like, it's almost like this like very particular intersection where it's like
of their lives,
where they are in a lot of pain, but they are also like
ready to break through that.
Yeah.
They're fighting.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And it seems like I seem to always come into their life right at that intersection. And even though like we may or may not have anything in common, they see me and I see them. And it's like I have been able to just like pull, whether it's pulling out their strength or giving them some of mine, plus some strategy and a little bit of game, and just being like, you will not fail. I will not let that happen. And that has been really interesting. And yeah, the women I've been meeting have just, they've been powerhouses in their own respect. And I think like we've been coming together in these like broad networks and then introducing each other to one another. And people are coming in with very different skill sets, very different powers. And that is growing quite interestingly.
Well, it's actually so funny because that leads me into my next question.
Okay, right.
So, you know, we've talked, like me and you have talked about your spiritual gifts, psychic, just how you're gifted and kind of connected to this realm, our less physical realm.
The 4D, the 5D, the
So,
6D,
like,
the 7D.
Exactly. All the D's and the Z's.
All the D's.
Like, so, like, what ways do you, because, you know, everyone's different. Like, so if you know, like, what ways do you feel like your, what are your gifts and how have they, like, developed and helped you over time? Like, how do you use that to strategize? And how you just talked about you seeing these women and them seeing you, and it's a, you're at your point in your journey where you're helping people.
Yeah.
So, like,
you know, my gifts have constantly been evolving, particularly in the past year. You know, like I had a Kundalini awakening 2 weeks ago that I did not expect. And that has like, you know, that has, you know, that has been something that I have had to like work into my schedule.
That work into the schedule.
You know, like,
scheduled, what's the word? Ascending time.
Yeah, exactly. Like I did not see that happening. It was predicated and set off by a personal development course that I took. Also, that I was completely unprepared. I just walk into things completely unprepared and see what happens. It's usually like the worst and the best at the end, but you know, I did not see that happening. But you know, there have been. Oh, that's such a broad question to so many different answers. There have been things that I have seen and experienced
like
that my eyes cannot explain. That like my consciousness, you know, like if it had to be explained in the 3D, it was inexplicable. But I know I saw them with my own eyes. I know they happened. And, you know, there have been a number of those incidents, perhaps, you know, particularly over the past 2 years. I think also, you know, my intuitive, claircognizant, clairsentient, clairaudient gifts have gotten heightened. And I think, you know, what I also didn't you don't know how other people see or don't see things, right? Like we only ever have one perspective, and that is our own. I think I have always been able to, you know, I don't read auras. Auras is not something I've ever seen, but I can see energy. I can see frequency, and I can read everyone's eyes. And I can read anyone's eyes and basically like
know a couple things. Make a couple assumptions. So like to be like more specific, because that is a very broad question. Like you just said, in this past year is when you've seen a lot of growth. Do you think that there were things that you missed or things that you observed that maybe your intuition was trying to get you to realize that maybe you put to the side?
Yeah, I think it's often been the nature of people. That I have read people very accurately, very quickly. And I have, maybe it's because of circumstances, maybe it's, you know, I don't even want to admit it, but maybe it's been out of my own curiosity to just observe them, to just sort of like, to
arm yourself with information,
to just play dumb. You know, and I think like the people who have been tapped in have seen me very quickly, but I think particularly like narcissistic people have always thought I was like much dumber than I really am. And I have probably I have probably like embodied that persona for their benefit more often than not. But I think like, you know, I cannot explain how many different people of how many different walks of life how many different like nationalities and socioeconomics and all the rest of it, and highest to lowest that like I have come into contact with and I have gotten to see at a somewhat interpersonal, intimate level. And I think like my role in life, particularly up until like perhaps the first 44 years, maybe now like, I'm coming out to play and like letting people know I saw more than they think I did. But I think so much of that has just been observation and training. Like, I think I've just really had to see all aspects and all facets. And really, part of it has broken my heart because I've realized how much darkness is really in humanity. But part of it has grown my heart so deeply as well, because I have also seen so much love and so much compassion and so much honesty and generosity from often the most humblest among us. And if you understand, I think what people don't understand is that like every life is equal. I do not care what crayon color you are. I do not care what like particular country or continent or ethnicity you were incarnated to into this lifetime. Like, I already know I've been at least like 10 different humans. Like, I can already tell you a couple countries I know at certain points of history I was incarnated in. So like, this is not my first. I really hope it's my last. Like, I just do not want to come back here. I'm just
like somewhere else.
I just feel like Earth and like I'm not from here, and I feel like I have done like
you've served your time.
Yeah, please, like let me go home. But like I think people don't like every life is equal, and I think that is even what's like I don't eat a lot of meat. Like I eat it maybe just like a handful of times a week, but I think that's even what's like making me think about vegetarianism in a very different way, because I'm just like, if every human life is equal, so like a boy in the Congo, a girl in Nepal, a kid in South Africa, like it doesn't matter, like a boy in China, it doesn't matter, in Sudan, in Gaza, it doesn't matter. If every life is equal, then perhaps every like animal life is equal too. Like, cruelty against animals is also another aspect of like, no, other animals are not cruel to each other. They have
a system.
They are very, and actually there's so much, when you really start researching it, there's actually so much kindness interspecies, particularly when like certain babies of one species are, you can have a hippopotamus who's like orphaned and taken in by an elephant. Like, there's so many aspects of like generosity that they basically only kill when they need to eat. But there is a broad enough like pyramid and ecosystem that basically they can all survive harmoniously. We're the only species
that's like, I need to get
that has declared war on every other species on this planet.
That's so,
for no reason. And the abuse and the cruelty and the like devious, craven pleasure. There is no need. There's no need, A, to harm another human. There are plenty of resources. There's plenty to go around. Like, there's no need to harm another human. And there's actually no need anymore to harm another animal.
That's true. I'll be honest. It is a thought that I just like can't. I'm a little like I think about it and I do feel guilty about it. I'm just not ready. But like I have guilt because I think about that. I'm there too. I have a cat. I've had dogs. I genuinely, I'm an animal person. I actually am. Not so even a bug,
So what's
and
the
I
difference
think about that
between a cat or a cow or a dog or a chicken? We've just made up these differences.
There's other ways to get in those your nutrients. Some people even argue that there's less. That's not where we're supposed to get them.
I think it is like it's not where we're supposed to get them. I think we're digressing substantially, but I think like depending on socioeconomics, I think there are also a lot of people who do not need to eat meat. I'm not a vegetarian, so I'm not even like, but like it is something I have been grappling with and really, really, really dissecting I'm not there yet, but
it's a thought that it keeps coming. You're probably going to end up there just because of the fact that you can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to ask you one last question.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I've gone all over I did not expect to talk about animals and like vegetarianism when I'm not even a vegetarian.
Just let them know where you're at.
But like I'm grappling with it though.
Okay. What are the main lessons, I guess, to be more specific, about people that you've learned through awakenings and warfare itself? Like, like you said, one of the main things that you said, an example is we're 50% good and 50% evil.
If that's it, but like, yeah.
So like that's
that's
just
what it feels like right now.
But what are some of the lessons that you're gonna take with you that you even pass on to others?
Anyone's accomplishments, their net worth, their title, their perceived power, dominance, whatever hierarchy, it's bullshit. Most of these people are bullshit. It means absolutely nothing. And I think a lot of people are living their own personal hells behind very pretty doors.
Oh, I know that.
And, it doesn't, I think like we have, because this world, particularly in the past couple hundred years and, with the kind of Abrahamic religions taking, greater hold.
Yes.
There has been this, like, there's just the patriarchy is nonsense.
And made up.
Yeah, and made up, but will also like disintegrate a society, and that is the inflection point that we're at right now.
And that's why things are a wreck, because it's happening.
Right. This is the natural evolution and the natural culmination of what just this insatiable demonic desire for more. And your more at this point in time seems to always mean people's less.
It is demonic. That's
you don't need any more. Like, once somebody is like more than satiated, more than comfortable, more than protected, more than provided for this lifetime, their children's lifetimes, blah blah blah, that is madness. Particularly because they know it's at somebody else's expense and they keep doing it anyway. Like, they
prefer it to be at someone else's expense.
It's like, that is part of the pleasure. It's almost like this like sexual deviance that like they get off on the abuse and the deprivation and the at times the murder of others. Like, that is literally where their sense of like desire and pleasure is, because it certainly can't be a new car at this point. It can't be another vacation. It can't be a handbag. Like, so like that is where it's gotten to, and I'm just like, oh, like so there's so many things I can say to that. Like, but like
it's a lot, but like so that's the main thing that you would say is...
Well, is that the main thing? What was the question? I don't know.
Basically, like, what's your, I don't want to say most important, because you really can't put a cap on, but that you want to pass on to others and that you've learned. Yeah. Like, one of the bigger things that you've learned at this point now.
But like, okay. On the flip side of that darkness, I've never been more full of love for people. I've never been more connected to people. I've never been more connected to the collective consciousness. I've never been more connected to all of them up there. And there are a lot of them, and there are a lot of them around me, and they keep me busy and distracted. I think there's a lot I missed early on when I was like just more in the 3D and in this sort of like accomplishment, work, job, title, blah, 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 and surviving and money and whatever. And I think like now that I'm far out of that, it's like my connections to people are so much deeper. And it's like, that is really the only thing that ever matters. The only thing when it's all said and done will be like your relationship with your family, your relationship with, a partner, if you close it out with one, your relationship with your friends, your relationship to people, how they feel about you and how you feel about them. Like, that is the only experience that really matters. And like in giving them, not without boundaries, not selflessly and stupidly like I might have in the past, but like that I can, there's a concept of like the dark empath, and that like my empathy has like grown so greatly that like in very particular ways, like I can really like lock in with people and they lock in with me. And it's like, that's what I'm going to remember this. I'm going to remember looking at you. Like, this is what This is what I'm taking with me.
And that's what they always say, isn't it? I mean, it's true. I agree with that. I think that's a pretty good point. Connections, people, you know, dealing with who's in front of you. So like you said, family, friends, if you have a partner.
And if you can, whatever mark you leave on this world, like,
make it a good one.
Yeah, I hope people realize that, like, you want to close out this life being proud of yourself. Like, otherwise, what was the point? It's
being proud, exactly.
Like, close out with your head held high.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right, my dear.
All right, that was my last question for you today.
All right, okay, so, all right. That was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I've been nervous about this for a long time. But okay, I survived. We survived. I survived. I survived.
You thrived.
Yes.
You thrived.
So with that, take care and Godspeed.